How do you reach a point where no one, and I mean no one, can get under your skin? Where their words roll off your back like rain on glass, where their energy doesn't shake your peace. It starts with one simple truth. Your peace is your responsibility, not your partner's job, not your coworker's burden, not something you find when people treat you right. It's yours to protect, manage, and hold, no matter the storm. Someone cuts you off in traffic, a friend makes a passive-aggressive comment, a stranger throws shade online, you don't flinch. Not because you're numb, but because you've learned something powerful. What people do is about them. How you respond, that's all on you. Their rudeness, that's their wound talking. Their attitude, that's their baggage showing. And if you let every rude glance or dismissive tone dictate your mood, you're handing over your peace like it's loose change. So what's the alternative? It's silence. Real silence. Not the kind that bottles up emotion until it explodes. The kind that comes from strength. From knowing not every battle deserves a sword. Silence is a superpower. Not responding when you could, that's power. Not reacting when they expect you to, that's growth. Because peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just lives inside people who know when to speak and when to walk away. That doesn't mean you become a doormat. It means you pause. You create space between what triggers you and how you react. That space is where the real growth happens. Most people live in reaction mode. They hear something they don't like and boom, they snap. But if you can pause, if you can take just 2 seconds to breathe, think, and choose, you go from emotional reflex to emotional control. You don't owe anyone your anger. You don't owe them your energy. And you definitely don't owe them your peace. When you truly realize that, something shifts. You stop getting pulled into the chaos. You stop reacting to every fire someone tries to light around you. You just watch. Calm, focused, detached, but not cold, just clear. That's the key. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting every emotion run your day. You still feel, but you don't drown. And I have one line observation here. And when someone really hurts you, not just annoys you, but cuts deep, what then? That's where forgiveness steps in. But let's be clear, forgiveness isn't for them. It's for you. Carrying around resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person gets sick. You forgive not because they earned it, but because your peace deserves it. You don't need closure from them. You just need freedom from the weight. Imagine that. A life where you walk through chaos without letting it live in you. Where people throw shade, but you stay in the sun. Where a fence knocks, but you don't open the door. That's not fantasy, it's practice. You practice choosing your peace over your pride. You practice taking the high road even when the low road looks tempting. You practice quiet power over loud reaction. And slowly, moment by moment, day by day, you stop getting angry, you stop being bothered, not because the world got softer, but because you got stronger. Let them talk, let them act, let them be who they are. Yep, you stay unshaken because your peace was never up for negotiation. Your peace is your responsibility. That might sound simple, but it's one of the most difficult truths to fully accept because it means you stop blaming others for how you feel. It means you stop saying things like, he ruined my day, or she made me so mad. No one can make you feel anything unless you allow them access to that power. People will always act in ways that are frustrating, disappointing, or offensive. That's the nature of being human. But if your emotional state rises and falls based on how others treat you, then you've handed over your internal world to outside forces. And once you do that, you're no longer in control of your peace. They are. Peace doesn't come from silence in your environment. It comes from calm in your mind. It doesn't depend on people behaving the way you want. It depends on you deciding how much you let their behavior affect your mindset. Every time someone says something rude and you react with anger, you're reinforcing the idea that your calm is conditional. Conditional on them being kind, conditional on them being mature. But real peace, lasting peace, is unconditional. It's not tied to what others do. It's anchored in what you choose. And you can choose peace over pride, silence over reaction, understanding over judgment. And this doesn't mean you ignore problems or let people walk all over you. It means you learn to respond, not react. A reaction is instant, emotional, and often impulsive. A response is thoughtful, calm, and rooted in self-awareness. You can only respond with that level of maturity when you've made peace your responsibility. That inner calm gives you the power to choose a better response, even when you're triggered, even when someone is deliberately trying to poke at you. When peace is something you own and protect, you stop letting others rent space in your head. Their energy can knock, but it doesn't get in unless you open the door. Taking responsibility for your peace also means building habits that protect it. It means walking away from arguments that go nowhere. It means setting boundaries with people who drain your energy. It means knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It means not needing to prove your point every time you're misunderstood. When you own your peace, you stop chasing validation and start trusting your own inner compass. You stop needing others to behave in a certain way so you can feel okay. Owning your peace is a daily practice. It requires checking in with yourself, learning your triggers, and choosing not to surrender your calm to someone else's chaos. It's not about being emotionally numb. It's about being emotionally disciplined. When peace becomes your responsibility, you no longer wait for the world to calm down. You learn to carry your own stillness with you, no matter how loud the world gets. What people do is about them. How you react is about you. And it's one of the hardest lessons to internalize, especially when someone disrespects you, talks behind your back, or pushes your buttons. It's natural to want to defend yourself, to correct the lie, to prove a point. But if every offense controls your emotions, then your peace is still tied to other people's behavior. And that means you're giving them power over you. People's actions are rooted in their experiences, their insecurities, their wounds. Their mood swings, rude comments, or dismissive tones often say more about their own struggles than they do about your worth. But if you make everything personal, you'll carry weight that was never yours to begin with. Someone rolls their eyes in a meeting, you feel disrespected. A friend cancels plans, you feel unimportant. A stranger makes a snide comment, you feel offended. But what if none of those things were actually about you? What if the person in the meeting was dealing with something heavy you can't see? What if your friend was overwhelmed and didn't know how to communicate? What if the stranger's comment was just a reflection of their own bitterness? And you pause to consider that possibility. You give yourself the power to choose a different reaction, one that's grounded, not reactive, one that protects your peace, not sacrifices it. This mindset doesn't mean you excuse poor behavior. It means you stop tying your emotions to it. You can hold someone accountable without letting them dictate your internal state. You can draw a boundary without losing your temper. You can walk away from disrespect without dragging the resentment with you. That's emotional maturity, understanding that your reaction is your responsibility. Even when someone else is in the wrong, it's not about letting them off the hook. It's about refusing to let them pull you out of character. When you realize that what they do is about them, you stop needing to defend yourself all the time. You stop feeling like you have to correct every misunderstanding. You stop over-explaining just to feel seen. You learn to let people be wrong about you without it shaking your foundation, because your identity isn't up for debate. It's not shaped by other people's opinions. It's shaped by how well you know yourself and how grounded you are in that truth. Taking ownership of your reaction doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. It allows you to respond with clarity rather than reacting from hurt. And that's where your strength lies, not in how loud you are, but in how calm you stay. Not in proving a point, but in protecting your peace. People will come and go with all kinds of energy. Some will try to lift you, some will try to tear you down. But you're not here to manage them. You're here to manage you. And when you understand that, you stop chasing control and start walking in peace. Silence is a superpower. It's not loud, it doesn't grab attention, and it rarely gets celebrated, but it's one of the most powerful tools you'll ever have in a world that constantly demands your reaction. When someone offends you, your instinct is to clap back. When you're misunderstood, your ego wants to speak up and explain. When tension rises, every part of you wants to say something to defend your pride. But silence, intentional, calm, grounded silence, breaks that pattern. It allows you to step out of the emotional tug of war and into a place of clarity. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've outgrown the need to be reactive. There's a kind of silence that comes from fear or insecurity. That's not the one we're talking about. The silence that holds power is the one you choose when you know speaking in the moment will only add noise, not clarity. It's the silence that gives you space to observe instead of absorb. When you pause instead of react, you give yourself a chance to see the situation clearly. You're no longer playing the game on someone else's terms. You're operating from your own center. Sometimes people will provoke you just to see what kind of reaction they can pull out of you. They want you flustered, defensive, emotional, because that gives them control. But when you stay silent, you confuse that energy. They expected drama and you gave them peace. They wanted to argue and you gave them stillness. They wanted control, but you didn't hand it over. That kind of silence changes the dynamic. It shifts the power back to you without ever raising your voice. Silence also protects your dignity. There are moments when nothing you say will be heard clearly, moments when someone's mind is already made up, their ears already closed, their heart already hardened. Speaking into that moment is like shouting into the wind. It doesn't land where it needs to. But silence leaves room for them to reflect. Silence says, I won't waste my energy proving what's already true. And often that silence says more than words ever could. Choosing silence is also a form of self-respect. It's you saying, I value my peace more than winning this moment. It's you saying, I don't need to react to feel powerful. I already am. It gives you room to respond later if and when it's necessary from a place of strength instead of emotion. It lets you process the situation on your own terms. And more often than not, when you revisit it with a calm mind, you realize you didn't need to say anything at all. There's peace in not having the last word. There's strength in walking away without needing to be right. There's confidence in knowing your silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom in action. Because when you stop needing to react to every trigger, you start reclaiming your emotional power, one quiet moment at a time. The pause between trigger and reaction is where growth lives. That small space, often just a breath, a blink, a heartbeat, is where everything can change. Most people don't even notice it exists. They get triggered and instantly react. Someone insults them and they snap back. Someone disagrees and they raise their voice. Someone ignores them and they shut down. It's all automatic. But growth doesn't happen in the growth happens in the intentional. And that pause is your opportunity to be intentional instead of impulsive. That pause is a doorway. On one side is your old self, the version that reacts based on ego, fear, or pride. On the other side is your higher self, the version that responds with wisdom, restraint, and clarity. Every time you pause, you're choosing which version of yourself gets to show up. And the truth is, no one can force you to react. People can push, provoke, test, even disrespect you. But the choice to respond is always yours. That's why the pause is so powerful. It gives you back the control most people don't realize they've given away. Think about how many situations in life spiral out of control because someone couldn't pause. An argument that escalated, a relationship that broke, a message sent in anger, a word you wish you could take back. All of it could have been different with just a moment of pause. That moment where you breathe, check in with yourself, and ask, is this worth it? Am I being driven by truth or by emotion? What outcome do I really want? That 1 second of awareness can save you hours, days, sometimes years of regret. This doesn't mean you bottle up your emotions. It means you filter them through wisdom. It means you acknowledge your feelings, but you don't let them lead the conversation. You let that pause catch your emotions before they crash into someone else. You let it cool the heat before it burns something down. That's not repression. That's regulation. It's the difference between emotional chaos and emotional maturity. The more you practice pausing, the more natural it becomes. At first, it might feel forced or awkward. You might feel tension building inside because you're not reacting the way you used to. But that's exactly how growth feels. Unfamiliar, uncomfortable, but necessary. Over time, the pause becomes your default. It becomes your protection. You start to notice when you're triggered. You start to recognize the patterns. You hear the voice in your head that says, not everything deserves a response. Not every insult is a battle you need to fight. And in that space, something powerful happens. You get to choose who you are, not based on the heat of the moment, but based on the kind of person you're trying to become. You stop being reactive and start becoming reflective. You move from survival mode to intentional living, and that's where real peace begins, not in controlling the world around you, but in mastering the world within you, one pause at a time. Emotional detachment isn't cold, it's clarity. A lot of people confuse being emotionally detached with being heartless, indifferent, or numb, but true detachment isn't about not feeling anything. It's about feeling everything, but not letting it control you. It's the ability to observe what's happening around you without becoming consumed by it. It's the strength to witness someone else's chaos and not make it your own. It's the discipline to keep your peace even when the room is heavy, the energy is tense, or the conversation is toxic. When you're emotionally attached to every outcome, every opinion, and every action someone takes, you're setting yourself up for constant disappointment. You're handing your mood over to external events. If they approve, you feel validated. If they ignore you, you feel small. If they argue, you get defensive. That's emotional instability, a life ruled by other people's behavior. But when you practice detachment, you step back. You say, I see what's happening, but I don't have to be swallowed by it. You create space between the event and your response. And in that space, you protect your clarity. Attachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop over-caring about things that are beyond your control. You don't have to absorb every emotion thrown your way. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to chase closure or beg for understanding or lose sleep over someone else's opinion. You can show love without being dependent. You can care deeply without losing yourself. That's the balance detachment gives you. You stay connected to others, but rooted in yourself. One of the most powerful aspects of emotional detachment is that it lets you hear clearly. When you're not clouded by emotional reactivity, you can see what's really going on beneath the surface. You can listen without instantly taking offense. You can process criticism without spiraling into self-doubt. You can witness someone's pain without thinking it's your fault or your job to fix them. That clarity changes everything. It lets you navigate life with wisdom instead of woundedness. People may not always understand your calm. They might mistake it for coldness, but that's because most people are used to noise, to dramatic responses, to immediate reactions, to emotional chaos. When you bring stillness, it can be unsettling to those who thrive on drama. But that's not your concern. Your concern is protecting your clarity. Your concern is staying grounded, staying kind, staying aware, even when everything around you wants to pull you into the storm. Emotional detachment is what gives you the power to keep showing up with compassion without being drained, to set boundaries without guilt, to let go without bitterness. It's what allows you to stay in your peace when others are still trying to find theirs. And once you learn to live from that space, you realize you don't need to win arguments or seek approval or carry what was never yours to hold. You just need to stay clear, stay present, and stay true to the version of yourself that peace has been trying to build all along. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. That's something most people don't realize until they've carried the weight of resentment for far too long. You think by holding on to the hurt, you're keeping the other person accountable. You think your anger is a form of justice. You replay what they said, how they acted, what they never apologized for, thinking that somehow your pain punishes them. But it doesn't. It punishes you. It keeps your mind stuck in a moment that's already over. It turns a single event into a repeated injury. Forgiveness is not about excusing what they did. It's about refusing to let what they did live inside you any longer. Holding on to pain can feel powerful in the moment. It gives you a reason to stay guarded, a shield to protect your heart, a narrative to hold on to. But over time, that pain doesn't protect you. It poisons you. It seeps into your joy, your peace, your trust in others. It shows up in how you treat new people, how you speak to yourself, how much you let love in. And the person who hurt you, they might not even be thinking about it. They've moved on. Meanwhile, you're still reliving the wound. That's why forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. It's a decision to stop bleeding for someone else's mistake. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean you let that person back into your life. It doesn't mean you pretend like nothing happened. It means you acknowledge the pain, learn the lesson, and release the grip it has on your soul. You let go, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve to be free from the heaviness. You deserve to laugh again without bitterness in your chest. You deserve to sleep without your mind racing through old arguments. Forgiveness is how you make space for that kind of peace. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself, for the times you stayed too long, for the things you allowed, for the mistakes you made. But self-forgiveness is just as important. You were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time. Beating yourself up won't change the past, but it will block your growth. Just like you wouldn't want someone you love to carry guilt forever, you owe yourself that same compassion. Forgiveness of others and forgiveness of self are both acts of emotional maturity. They're not about forgetting, they're about healing. People might never say sorry. They might never acknowledge what they did. And if your healing depends on their apology, you might be waiting forever. But when your healing depends on your choice, you take your power back. You don't need closure to close a chapter. You just need the courage to say, I won't carry this anymore. Because your peace is worth more than your pride. And your future is too important to keep dragging old pain into it. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks that future. Not for them, but for you.